What if everything you thought you knew about Jim Jones's life was built on falsehoods? Well, Mama Jones is finally breaking her silence, and what she's revealing will leave you speechless. All the questions that have lingered in your mind for years. Why did Jim's life unravel the way it did? What sparked the betrayal? What led to the chaos? Brace yourself, because Mama Jones has just laid it all out, and the truth is more shocking than you could ever imagine. You won't believe who's actually pulling the strings behind it all. Was Jim's downfall really just a series of poor choices, or were the very people closest to him secretly conspiring against him? Chrissy, Cameron, they've always stirred up their share of drama, but could they have been plotting to dismantle Jim's empire from within? In an eye-opening new revelation, Mama Jones is exposing everything, and what she's revealing is nothing less than explosive. What were Chrissy and Cameron really doing behind closed doors that led to Jim's public humiliation? And just how far does this web of betrayal stretch? The truth is darker than anyone could have ever anticipated. This isn't just a story about a few bad choices, it's a full-fledged conspiracy. Get ready, because the untold story is about to be revealed. After hearing this, you won't view Jim Jones the same way again. Stay tuned, because the truth is about to hit you harder than you expect. Let's break it all down, because what you're about to hear will shake the very core of everything you thought you knew about Jim Jones and the people in his circle. Mama Jones has finally decided to speak out after years of silently watching the chaos unfold. But believe me, this isn't your typical family drama. No, what we're uncovering here is a betrayal so deep, so intricately planned, it's almost unbelievable. For years, Jim has been a lightning rod for controversy, caught up in public feuds, making questionable choices, and wielding an undeniable influence in the rap game. But the question always remained: what really happened? How did someone so powerful, so confident, end up in the chaotic mess we see today? If you've been following the drama, you're already familiar with the names that seem to always surface when Jim's life falls apart: Chrissy and Cameron. Now you might think, same old story, Jim, Chrissy, Cam, what's new? But here's the twist, folks. Mama Jones is finally dropping the real bombshell. There's been this cloud of uncertainty hanging over Jim's downfall for years. Public humiliation, career missteps, troubled relationships. It all became too much to ignore. But now Mama Jones is connecting the dots. And when she lays it out, the picture she paints is far from pretty. Did Chrissy and Cam really betray Jim beyond repair? According to Mama Jones, the answer is a resounding yes. But what's even more chilling is the depth of this conspiracy. It's not just about petty jealousy or misunderstandings. This goes deeper, into power, control, and the extreme measures people take when they feel threatened. She watched as those closest to Jim, the people he trusted most, pulled the strings behind his back. Chrissy Lynn has always been a controversial figure, never one to hold back her opinions, especially when it comes to Jim's friends and associates. But what if her actions weren't just fueled by personal grudges? What if they were part of a larger, more sinister plan to bring Jim down? Mama Jones's latest revelations suggest that Chrissy was driven by a need for control, someone willing to manipulate and destroy everything in her path to get what she wanted. And then there's Cameron, a name that's always carried weight in the streets. As a major figure in the rap scene, Cam built his own empire. But according to Mama Jones, there's more to the story than what we've seen on the surface. Behind the scenes, she claims, Cam's motives were far from as pure as they seemed. For years, he's been playing a dangerous game. And his end goal? Let's just say it wasn't Jim Jones's success. It's easy to dismiss these relationships as just another round of tabloid drama. But what if there's more to it? What if the chaos we've witnessed over the years was all part of a carefully orchestrated plan? What if the very people Jim trusted the most were the ones leading him toward his own self-destruction? Mama Jones isn't talking about petty squabbles anymore. She's revealing how Chrissy and Cam intentionally manipulated Jim's situation to serve their own interests. And believe me, the deeper you go, the more shocking it gets. But before we dive into the specifics of how they pulled it off, let's pause and understand why this matters so much. Jim Jones isn't just some random celebrity. He's a cornerstone of the rap industry, a man who's shaped the culture and earned his place as a figure of respect. So, when someone close to him starts pulling strings behind the scenes, you can bet the fallout will be massive. But here's the twist. This wasn't just about business. No, this was personal. This was about relationships, loyalty, and betrayal on the highest level. Jim Jones thought he was surrounded by people who had his back, but it wasn't just Chrissy or Cam. It was the very people in Jim's inner circle, the ones he trusted most with everything. What Mama Jones reveals next will completely reshape your view of these relationships. According to Mama Jones, Cam played a major role in stoking the fire between Jim and Chrissy. But this wasn't just about petty drama or bruised egos. Mama Jones claims Cam was working behind the scenes, spreading rumors, planting seeds of doubt, and stirring up chaos. But why? What was his end game? Was he trying to sabotage Jim's success to create his own empire, or was there something deeper at play? Mama Jones delivers one bombshell after another, suggesting that Cam was actually positioning himself to take over Jim's spot. But where does Chrissy fit into all of this? Well, Mama Jones has a theory. She believes Chrissy, motivated by a thirst for control and power, was being manipulated by Cam. But it wasn't just about manipulating Chrissy. There was much more to it. It wasn't just about power, it was about betrayal. Chrissy, feeling more and more sidelined in Jim's life and career, was pushed to make decisions that would ultimately shatter the very foundation Jim had worked so hard to build. By now, it's clear that this isn't just a simple love triangle, or a fallout over a friendship. This is a meticulously calculated scheme that's been brewing for years. But here's the kicker. Mama Jones reveals that the damage wasn't only emotional, it was strategic. Every move made by Chrissy and Cam wasn't just a reaction to personal issues, it was part of a piece by piece. As we start to piece together the puzzle, it becomes clear just how deliberate and malicious this betrayal truly was. Mama Jones wasn't just watching her son's life fall apart from a distance. She was witnessing the destruction of everything Jim had built, all at the hands of people he trusted the most. The real question is, how much longer will Jim allow this to happen? And just how far does this conspiracy extend? Mama Jones's voice shattered the silence like a storm, filled with years of unspoken hurt, betrayal, and anger. As she began to speak, the truth poured out, shedding light on a side of the story that had never been fully revealed. It wasn't just about family drama anymore. This was about loyalty, trust, and the catastrophic impact one person's decisions could have on an entire group. People often think they understand what's going on behind the scenes, seeing only the glitz and glamour. But what they fail to see are the brutal battles fought in the shadows. Chrissy, Cam, and Jim, they were all tangled in something that turned dark, and it's time the world knew the truth. Mama Jones began speaking, her words calm, yet laced with emotion. She took a deep breath, preparing to unravel the web of lies, manipulation, and betrayal that had torn Jim's life apart. Jim and Cam used to be like brothers. They had each other's backs through thick and thin. But somewhere along the way, things shifted. Cam started pulling away, becoming distant. Jim, caught in the middle, didn't know where to turn. And then Chrissy entered the picture with her own agenda. That's when everything began to fall apart. Mama Jones paused, her face a mix of pain and disbelief. "I saw it all happening," she said quietly. At first, it was subtle, small cracks here and there. Jim would come home and talk about how things were getting tense with Cam, how they weren't seeing eye to eye anymore. And Chrissy, she'd always have something to say about it, as if she was trying to drive a wedge between them. It wasn't just about Jim and Cam anymore. It became about her control, her vision of how things should be. The weight of her words hit hard as she described how Chrissy's manipulation slowly seeped into Jim's relationship with everyone around him. Chrissy wanted Jim to be everything she wanted him to be. But what she didn't realize was that in trying to shape him, she was slowly breaking him down. She didn't want Jim to be the man he once was. No, she wanted him to fit into her idea of what a perfect man should be. And in the process, she began pushing away the people who truly cared for him, starting with Cameron. "Cameron," Mama Jones muttered, shaking her head. He wasn't always like this. He had once been a loyal friend, someone you could count on. But loyalty only lasts so long when people begin to change. Cameron didn't just change. He started seeing Jim as a stepping stone, a means to climb higher in the game, to solidify his own position. And when Chrissy entered the picture, it was like a perfect storm. They both began pulling at Jim in different directions, each trying to mold him into their idea of who he should be, but no one ever stopped to ask Jim what he wanted. The pain in Mama Jones's voice was clear as she spoke, recalling the days when Jim's life began spiraling out of control. I remember seeing Jim sitting on that couch, just staring into space. He was a shell of the man he used to be. And it wasn't because of the music or the business. It was because of the people he trusted the most. She knew exactly what she was doing, controlling the situation without Jim even realizing it. Jim's loyalty to his friends, his family, his fans was all being tested, and yet no one was there to reveal the truth to him. No one was there to show him what was really happening behind the scenes. So when everything blew up, Jim was the last one to know. Mama Jones's voice quivered as she said, "And when I saw it all unfold in front of me, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. This wasn't just about Jim anymore. It was about the damage Chrissy and Cameron had done to him, to us, to everything we built together." The turning point came when Mama Jones realized Jim was no longer the man she once knew. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the way Jim was changing. The way he was losing himself in all the lies and manipulation. Mama Jones could see it clearly. Her son, the one she had raised and loved, was becoming someone she didn't recognize. And it wasn't just the pressure from his career or the fame. It was the people he had allowed into his life, people who didn't have his best interests at heart. "I'm his mother, and it hurt me to see him like that," Mama Jones continued, her voice steady yet heavy with emotion. "Jim was too good for this, too loyal, too real for these games. But that's the thing about loyalty. It can be your greatest strength, but it can also be your downfall when the wrong people take advantage of it." Chrissy and Cameron played the game better than anyone. They knew how to manipulate. Impact is often the first to show. Jim's financial downfall didn't happen overnight. It was a slow bleed, a result of the constant pressure and the manipulation from those closest to him. Mama Jones paints a vivid picture of how the financial collapse unfolded. As his legal troubles mounted, so did his debts. The lawsuits, the bad press, the constant distractions, they all took a toll. Jim had been living a high life, investing in businesses, real estate, and trying to expand his brand. But when the people you trust most are working to tear you down, even the strongest empire can crumble. According to Mama Jones, the real damage came not just from the legal battles, but from how those battles kept Jim from focusing on his career and his true potential. With each setback, with each public humiliation, Jim's empire started to fall apart. And as the walls closed in, he realized something too late. The people he thought had his back were the ones responsible for his downfall. His hesitation to take action, to confront the truth, had allowed them to destroy him from within. And by the time Jim was ready to fight back, it was almost impossible to recover what was lost. In the end, Mama Jones believes that Jim's biggest regret wasn't the betrayal. It was not listening to the people who tried to warn him. The damage was done, and it seemed like too much to overcome. The road to redemption was going to be long and painful, and the scars would never fully heal. As Jim dealt with the emotional chaos and public humiliation, Cameron and Chrissy were working in the shadows, making sure that his finances took a hit at every turn. Mama Jones explains how they manipulated Jim into bad investments and partnerships, playing on his trust and his desire to protect those close to him. With each deal that fell through and each business venture that tanked, Jim's financial foundation cracked. What was worse, these weren't just poor decisions. According to Mama Jones, these were calculated moves designed to drain him dry. It wasn't just about money, it was about control. By stripping Jim of his wealth, Chrissy and Cameron were making sure he was left vulnerable. They knew that with his financial standing crumbling, Jim would be forced to rely on them more and more. It was a power play, and they played it masterfully. Jim, caught up in the drama and the emotions of it all, didn't see the financial ruin creeping in until it was almost too late. As Mama Jones reveals, Jim's financial downfall wasn't just about bad luck or poor judgment. It was a systematic effort to dismantle everything he had built. The investments, the partnerships, the businesses, it all became part of a larger strategy to ensure that Jim would have no choice but to rely on the very people who were working against him. And as each financial setback piled on top of the the walls of his empire continued to close in, leaving him with fewer options and a dwindling sense of control. The public backlash hit Jim hard, even harder than the financial and legal troubles. He had built a reputation in the streets and in the music industry, a reputation that people respected, but now that respect was crumbling. The very people he once considered family, Chrissy and Cameron, had been pulling the strings behind the scenes, creating a narrative that cast him as the villain. The media, ever hungry for drama, ate it all up, fueling the fire of public opinion. Suddenly, Jim found himself fighting a war on two fronts, one against the legal and financial wreckage orchestrated by his closest circle, and the other against a public that had turned on him. His credibility was on the line. The damage wasn't just financial, it was reputational. Mama Jones recalls the toll it took on her son, the man who once held the streets in his palm, now reduced to a figure being dragged through the mud. And the worst part? Jim had no one to turn to. His friends were the ones responsible for his downfall, and every attempt to fight back seemed to make matters worse. He was trapped in a cycle of self-doubt, trying to salvage his career while dealing with the crushing weight of betrayal from the people he trusted the most. It was a perfect storm of manipulation, betrayal, and public humiliation. And by the time Jim realized what was happening, it was almost too late to fix it. Mama Jones paints a picture of betrayal that goes far deeper than anyone could have imagined. It wasn't just about damaging Jim's career or reputation, it was about positioning themselves to take over. Cameron, according to Mama Jones, wasn't content with just being Jim's friend anymore. He saw an opportunity to seize control, to replace Jim as the central figure in the game they both once ruled. For him, Jim's downfall wasn't an accident. It was a calculated move to ensure that he, not Jim, would be the one standing at the top when the dust settled. As for Chrissy, her role in this wasn't just about loyalty to Cameron. Mama Jones believes Chrissy was equally complicit in the plan. She wasn't just a bystander. No, she was helping Cameron pull the strings, manipulating Jim to the point where he was no longer the man he once was. Chrissy, like Cameron, had her own agenda. It wasn't about love or loyalty anymore. It was about power. She was willing to tear Jim down in order to build herself and Cameron up. The real heartbreak in all of this, Mama Jones insists, is that Jim never saw it coming.